there's a huge swath of the population that's taking a step back and saying, like, no, we need to regulate these industries, make sure that big tech is held accountable, make sure that we are protecting these kids. And it can't all be on the parents. It does not all come back to whether or not you sent the parental controls on your kid's phone.
We already know what helps. Connection is the cure. It's our deep and meaningful relationships that give us hope and healing. Welcome to This Helps. I'm Marlon Morgan. Join us as we practice authentic and vulnerable conversations that inspire us to go deeper with the people in our own lives. Today, we are so excited to spend time with Jill Murphy, Chief Content Officer at Common Sense Media.
Jill has been a key leader at Common Sense Media since 2005, where she helped to build the editorial department and now oversees all media ratings and reviews, from movies and streaming to games, apps, and books. Jill also leads the strategy behind Common Sense Media's parenting advice and works with major partners like Netflix, Hulu, and Target to expand their reach. A pop culture junkie and reality TV aficionado, she brings a sharp eye to the ever-changing media landscape, all in service of helping families make informed choices.
Jill, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, the first thing I thought about when I started to read about you and the life that's been devoted to the media that we consume, my first thought is, have you heard Pop Apologists? The new,
Yes.
It's sort of I don't know if it's new anymore, but my wife listens to it all the time and I just secretly overhear it and keep laughing. But where are you at with that podcast?
Well, anything pop culture is right up my alley. So, and I don't apologize for it. And I have a similar situation in my home where, like, half the shows that I watch for my personal viewing, not with my kids, that my husband disdains, that may or may not be on Bravo. He is also like, "Are you going to watch that show tonight?" So that there's a little bit of.
Does he ask you what's happening with some of the Real Housewives, and then
100%.
but then pretend like he doesn't care?
Yeah, he doesn't need to watch, but he also needs to know everything that's going on. So
yeah, just asking for a friend, I feel like is what happens. Yeah, it's hard because you want to stick to your guns. Like as far in our house with my wife, she'll watch things like Law and Order, and I'm always like judging it because I'm like, what? That's not entertainment. That's horrible. It's like so disgusting. And if it's on, it's like it's worse than if the TV is on and our 3-year-old's in the room. Like I can't even get ready for bed. I'm like, why do you guys like? What happened?
Yeah,
Olivia Benson? What?
You're just standing in the middle of the room, like staring. Yes,
1,000%. That's exactly. She's already in bed. She's laying there, and I'm literally standing in the middle of the room, like not even changing or anything, just for like half hour.
I am sure that you've seen like the millions of memes online about how women love true crime. Or any kind of crime series. We have an addiction. And Bravo. I mean, that seems to be, those are the go-tos for the ladies.
What is it about those two genres that, because I mean, I guess they're both sort of reality genre.
They are. It's a heightened reality. Hopefully they're not relatable in any way, shape, or form. I think that's the goal. Yeah. And it's the mystery, but it's not actually that mysterious because you kind of get a sense of what's coming. There's something weirdly comforting about both of those genres.
But it seems like it should be the opposite.
That it's comforting and it's dramatic is kind of an oxymoron, I guess. But I think there's something about it where it just makes you, at the end of the day, you can feel a little bit better that, like, see, the things I'm frustrated with aren't that bad because my friend didn't throw a drink in my face. And the last time I checked, I didn't, almost get nabbed in the mall while I was shopping with my children.
So perspective.
Yes. Yes. Some rough, direct perspective.
To really go over some traditional gender roles here, I want to talk about, so when I would go see a movie, a lot of times it's like an action movie where it's kind of hard to admit, but I love Dwayne Johnson. But it's not because I see him and I all of a sudden feel like my life is good. I see him and I'm like, I want to be him. I
He
want to
doesn't want to
be
be The
the
Rock.
Rock. Yeah. So I don't understand because I think that's what happens when I see true crime on in our house or even reality TV. It's like it stresses. I would never want to be in the room with all the housewives when they're
Sure.
arguing.
Okay, so it's not aspirational,
Yeah.
which I think is the difference. Like my husband's watching bloody action.
Yeah, because you
The
want to be a
last,
hero. He wants to
yes.
be that
I
person.
mean, aspirational in the sense of like this facade of like, I'm big and strong,
Yeah,
it's that or sports, right? And
totally. Which
then
is also that.
for me, it is aspirational of like, my life is not as bad as I thought it was,
Oh,
or the situation wasn't as bad as I thought it was. My
okay.
life is lovely and wonderful, and I have a lovely family. But when you're frustrated by something, and then you can watch something like The Housewives and this like ridiculous drama, it just kind of makes you laugh. And yeah, I don't know. It's just very cathartic.
True crime is all about gratefulness. Is that what you're saying?
True crime is yes, that's exactly. I don't feel like you put any words in my mouth. True crime is just more about
I was actually trying to see what happened, but I'm glad that I'm glad. Sounds like I nailed it.
yeah, it's not about, I mean, I guess maybe it leads to some gratitude, but everybody likes a good story. Those are just good stories. Unfortunately, the word true is in front of those crime stories. So the sad fact is that a lot of what we're watching is reality. And as a society, we've certainly, I'm going to take this to a dark place, but as a society, we've kind of gotten ourselves to a place where it's become entertainment.
It's a lot of like diminishing returns. I feel like we
Yeah,
talked
I would
to
agree.
our first episode. We had Anna Lemke on. She wrote Dopamine Nation and talks a lot about addiction and sort of what we do to get out of our feelings. And she says it best that I think a lot of times we're most miserable because of how hard we're trying to escape our current reality.
I think there's so much truth to that. And I think because there's an expectation, at least one of the ways that I would interpret that is there's such an expectation of the way that you should be if you want to do something different. So, in other words, you want to treat yourself better. So, what the world of um, self-care looks like is it's daunting. It's so
Yeah.
much work. It's so much easier to just watch my housewives. It's an escape. I get the same hit. Am I getting
Mm.
the same effect that I would if I went and worked out? No, but there is like a little bit of a warm blanket me time
Comfort
satisfaction that
feeling.
comes out of it. For
There
sure.
is comfort in watching shows, I think, because we can experience exciting or scary things, but know that we're totally safe. I think,
Yes.
I,
Right.
I don't think, yeah, it's not always like, I don't want to shame everyone. I don't think it's always bad to have an escape. I mean, I think we all need a little bit of time. It just starts to become out of balance, I think.
Right. I mean, that's true with everything.
Yeah.
A little bit
Yeah.
of something is always, the way to go. It's when you're indulging, it becomes a habit.
Mm.
It's the only thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Starting
only thing
to,
that you're watching.
you don't sleep at night. You
You
stay
don't
up for the
sleep.
next
You got to
next
binge the series all
episode.
at once. Yeah, I mean, then we're having a different conversation.
Well, thank you for being a human with us before we ask you for all this advice, because certainly you have the right information. And I believe from just things that I've read and interviews you've given in the past that you do put a lot of this into practice and you're aware of it and you're willing to talk about it.
My favorite thing is to put it into practice and mess it up and then talk
Mm.
about that as well. Because
Hmm.
that is human. And I think there is no right way for any of this. And the whole idea behind this concept of parenting advice, just like what? Like it's so, arrogant. And we try and focus it on guidance and recommendations because we are, taking a lot of information, trying to distill it down into something useful. But I like a nice, heavy layer of reality on top of that.
I love that. It's like truth and grace, but they match. You have to match them
Yes.
up.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I don't know. I can't think of anything in my life that I want more help with, and I'm feel less prepared for than where we're at currently with my 11-year-old, who I love. We have an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old, so
Wow.
it is very interesting, the difference of parenting, sort of things that I have to think about. But
Mm-hmm.
what can you tell us? I know there's a lot of research that Common Sense Media does, and just to let you know, I should come clean. I've been using Common Sense since I was like, I don't know, probably late '90s. And my friend, my friends and I used to go on there to actually look at the storylines of movies, because it was a
Mm-hmm.
big investment in the past. Like, if you were going to pay to go to the movie theater with your friends and like do all the weird ancillary BS that comes with getting friends together and going somewhere to do something, you wanted to make sure it was a good movie. So I can't say that we were always looking for the most wholesome, but you have like all the movies on there.
Yeah. Well, you've already heard, I live in the unwholesome. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
darker and seedier for
Yeah.
me, the better. Um, which is why which is why I work here, because my first movies were both Annie and um, Risky Business. So if that's not
Oh.
balance, I don't know what is. When I was 5.
Classic. Oh, that's good.
Um,
What
yeah.
is Risky Business? Is it that's Tom Cruise, right?
Yes.
Is that the one with
Mm-hmm.
the iconic
With
sunglasses and shirt
yes.
slide that he does?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the
Wonderful.
youngest of
Wonderful.
5, and but at that point, I think my parents were like, whatever, we need to go to the movies. Um, so you get in the car. Uh, so so yeah, there's a lot of research. There's a lot out there that we cover to try and help parents understand what works and what doesn't. But I think it just given, by the way, Marlon, the ages of your kids, so much has changed between that 11-year-old and 3-year-old. I mean, I'm sure you're also navigating that as well.
Yeah, and between when I was their age, like it's not.
Oh,
I feel like I might as well have been driving a horse and buggy
yeah.
compared to like what I'm trying to help, my oldest go through.
Yeah, I think the back in my day situation for parents now feels much um much more distant and just unrelatable
Hmm.
than perhaps other generations. Although I don't know. I mean, I can't say that for sure. That's not research back. That's just my
What do you
personal
mean
opinion.
by distant and unrelatable? I'm trying to picture that.
Well, my parents in particular, I mean, they're in their 80s, so they were born in the 40s. And so when they would
I
tell
can't.
me,
That's
yeah.
yeah,
So and I grew up in the 80s. So I
yeah.
think again, I have a weirder scenario of like being the youngest of 5, but there's 16 years between the youngest and the oldest. Um, so it was when my mom would say something like, well, when I was in high school, she meant the 50s. I mean, that is like crazy.
That's
That
like
just
black and
didn't,
white high school. Yeah,
it's Pleasantville.
yeah.
It didn't compute. And it wasn't
Gosh,
cool. Like the 70s were cool.
no.
So I think, so for my kids, at least the 90s are nostalgic again and cool. And so
Hmm.
there's some more relatability. However, the way what I could relate with my own parents and that my kids can't relate to with me are just the fundamentals of school, what we learned in school. Our subjects were relatively similar.
Hmm.
Now, the way our kids have computers in the classroom. I mean, we had Oregon Trail. It was like in the computer lab. Like we had one computer to go to, and
Which you're saying computer, but I don't think unless someone has recently gone and bought furniture or something at like RC Willie, like I haven't seen computers like the ones we had, unless
yeah,
I'm at like maybe the DMV, but even it's just like a black screen with green
yeah,
text.
yes. Those are in the places where they belong. Libraries, DMV.
Ugh.
It's
just slow, just like
slow,
like
quiet, old
weird
school.
codes that you have to
Yes.
know about and type in to not
Some
get
DOS.
dysentery. Yeah. MS DOS. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Lewis and Clark got like so much press when we were younger because of the Oregon Trail and just all that
Completely
colonization.
agree.
But yeah, whatever. Yeah.
All that colonization, all those ox that were dying.
Really, what I can't wait to do from a selfish point of view is talk about 90s TV. So if we could, so I want to get this stuff so that people get great parenting advice, and then if they want to keep listening to us talk about Blanche Devereaux or whoever it is that we need to bring up, then
I actually could cry just from hearing that name. That just warms my heart.
Rue McClanahan.
I almost named my oldest daughter's middle name Rue because of my passion for the Golden Girls. But anyway, I love that. I'm happy to give all the advice and recommendations that we have to offer, and just share with you as well that my daughters are 15 and 11, or newly minted 12, actually.
My gosh.
So I'm in there.
That feels like a big difference, 11 and 12. I keep thinking like 11's like, he's elementary school. That's cute. 12 is just like middle. It's just like,
I mean, I feel lucky because my older daughter has always been older, like in the sense that she always seemed more mature than her friends.
Yeah.
I don't mean mature in the sense that like she doesn't do anything silly, but just has this kind of presence about her. She left dolls behind early. She was ready for being on a phone, sitting around and doing nothing, eating snacks and having Starbucks. Like she was destined for 15 when she was 5.
That sounds like a great hang for a parent.
It is. It's great. I mean, it's love for me. It's fun. And then my younger daughter is really younger, and she is very much, I'd say 11 was Legos. 12 is Legos and Sephora. Like she's still hanging on to, she will play Legos, but she might have a full face of makeup on that she also just put together.
I love that collaboration idea. So if those are you're out there listening, Legos Sephora for the not quite
win.
Teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, smart, dangerously smart. I think, so I love that she's kind of still kind of in her nostalgia era for her own younger childhood. So it's a really fun age, but I'm sure, as you know, very difficult. Although 3 is no prize.
Oh my gosh, that potty training! What a feat it has been. It's been a real Donald Duck Winnie the Pooh situation around the house.
Pants optional. Well, that parenting advice I don't have for you, other than to say it won't be like that always. There will be a turning point where pants are back on. So,
that level of nursery sort of toddler living, I think, has forced me into White Lotus. So that's where I find balance. So we can talk about that later. But tell us
another one for the win.
Yeah, how do you do it, and how do you do it with your kids? We asked Merv the same question, and he gave us so many great thoughts that I don't think I had thought about.
Well, I mean, first of all, I started at Common Sense long before I had kids. So I came into this work as a product of the environment that I was raised in, which was exposure to way too much content at a very young age that really shaped me in a pretty substantial way. And that I still hold like a lot of cherished memories around, and can literally cite shows that I watched that have maybe to this day been embedded in my mind as like, that's where I got my fashion sense, or it was style that I liked, or things like that. I was very much a student of television. And I think one of the things that really stuck with me as a student of television when I was younger and all throughout my life has been not just, I really love to watch bad TV. I love to watch infomercials. I'm like obsessed with QVC. I'm fascinated that there's an audience for certain types of content. Fascinated by that.
Yeah.
And just want to know those people and get in there and understand them. And that's why I think I have such a love of reality TV. Not dating reality TV, but reality TV. So growing up with that type of environment, with like a free-for-all of watching whatever, whenever, TV in the bedroom, going to sleep at night with the TV on, it was there. It was very much a presence. And at some point, I was introduced to this concept of media literacy, and that became something that just really, like, even now I light up thinking about it. It just stuck with me. There was something about that. It was in college. I was like journalism major, then English major, not quite. I knew I wanted to write, kind of trying to find my footing, and kind of bumped into this concept of media literacy. And once I went down there, that rabbit hole, I'm there for life. Like, I am so incredibly in love with this concept of unpacking the messages that are in the media that we consume, whether it's kids or the way females are portrayed, or the way a camera angle will tell a different story depending on where it is. Just like, love it. So that's very much what Common Sense Media is. We are here and established to create this generation of critical thinkers, thinking about the media you're consuming or creating, as the case may be, and what you're getting out of it, and really trying to depict that, unpack it, see what your passion is, see what the message is. So, but we're not doing that with kids directly. We're doing that through their parents, who may have not been exposed to this concept of media literacy. So we are there to try and unpack media for the parents, not just, is it okay or not? What's in it? What about it? Why are your kids drawn to this? What can they learn from it? What are the warning signs of being involved in this? But we really try and get a parent to a place of yes too, because we're all fans of media and technology. We're not there to say like, oh my God. I mean, maybe some certain types of media, but we're really trying to help parents have an experience with their kids, or let their kids have an experience and feel good about it. So that's my long way of getting back to, I really found I don't have regret about being so passionate and like hungry for more TV and watching all these weird things and being into it even as a kid, because I really was watching it and continue to watch it and have my kids, I'm raising two couch potatoes, absorb media from this really hungry, like interested perspective of just talking about it. And it is, and I'm referencing TV, but I mean books and games and movies and like all these incredible plot lines, and the exposure that you get to worlds that you would never have thought of, maybe didn't know existed, maybe didn't want to know existed.
Well,
And
that's
talking
incredible.
about that.
Media is just that. It's something that we can experience another person's perspective or an idea that they had. And at its core, it's not good or bad. It is carrying a message. And it sounds like you're advocating for this being, media literate in understanding what the message is that maybe sometimes people are trying to sell us things very obviously, like in an infomercial, but there are most of the time, they're not being so overt, and you have to think about it and have some critical thinking. What I was hoping, Jill, that we could maybe do is 2 or 3 use cases where you as a parent might actually go and use, because commonsensemedia.org has an incredible amount of resources for parents, for educators. I would say, my wife's a teacher. She uses it for media literacy. There's a whole curriculum on there just for that, for teachers to just plug and play almost. I mean, it's very good. And so as a parent, though, what are like 2 or 3 situations you might find yourself in? And then how would you sort of navigate the resources that are available to be helpful for you?
I think it depends on the age of your kid, but let's just use your younger child as an example. Maybe they're not online yet, but even like a 3 to 6 year old, or 4 to 6 year old. First of all, early and often. I mean, like most things, right? You want to really start to engage them in these conversations. So for younger kids, you're going to be thinking about like taming that tantrum when you tell them it's time to close the iPad and putting that iPad to sleep. But being able to have yourself just sit with them without any dialogue, but just watch what they're watching. Let them show you what they like. Let you observe how they interact with the show or with a video, with a book, with a video game, whatever it may be, kind of getting a sense of where their likes are. I think parents studying that a little bit about their own kid is really valuable. Just taking some time to observe it. That's where you'll then be able to help point them in directions of things that they like, or less of what they're into if you're concerned about it, and more of what is okay between the two of you. So that's just a sit on the couch moment and enjoying 10, 15 minutes, co-viewing, co-playing. I know it sounds old school, but that really is a nice starting point for parents. If you're way beyond that, it's okay. Start now. I mean, it's never too late to do that.
I just want to point out that a lot of parents might be tempted during that time to sort of double screen it.
Yeah. It's
what do you
like
say
a
to
dedicated 10 minutes with your kid. 10 minutes. We can do that. 10 minutes. Do 5. I mean, it's very fast, what they're doing and where they're swiping. And if depending on your rationale for why you're doing it, are you concerned and that they're watching something? Then you're probably actually going to be more engaged in watching what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just genuinely interested or feel like, God, I have like no idea what they even watch or are playing behind that screen. By the way, this advice, I'm saying 4 to 6 at first, but this goes all the way up through high school. I mean, just sit down with them. In some cases with older kids, let them show you, but take a minute and just let them do that. The truth is, as we jump into the older kids, I mean, a lot of our guidance earlier on was around download it, get familiar with it. We're there to do that heavy lifting for you. We have a lot of guides for parents. They're called Parents Ultimate Guides, Parents Ultimate Guide to Discord or Snap or whatever it is. We're there to do that. So it's a little bit of a shortcut. And within that, there's conversation starters, et cetera. We can come back to that. But
so you can learn about apps that you might hear
yes.
about an app being, discussed among friends or parents for that matter. And you want to know about the app and in a way that, it's hard to ask a kid because they're like, I don't know. I just think it's cool or my friends are on it. But you're saying we could go to commonsense.org and just have like a full-on guide, like all the things we want to know.
Yes. And the ratings and reviews do that too. So it's not just going to tell you what age Roblox is for. It's going to tell you why we're recommending that age, what is in it that's positive, what may be something that you want to keep an eye on. That's what I meant when I say, like, we really supply all that information. You decide what's best for your kid. My kid likes to be social, but when he needs guardrails and all of his friends are playing it. So we're going to set up a space for him and his friends to just play, whatever the case may be for you. But we want to provide you insights into what you can expect them to get into in this game, how to kind of set some guidelines around what is and isn't okay for you, and some conversation starters. Because at the end of the day, all of this for us Common Sense is all about have a conversation. Nothing replaces having a conversation, not parental controls, not hovering over your kid while they're playing, not locking everything down. If you're not having real conversations with your kids, as I said, early and often, they will find a way around every other control that you have put in place. The very websites and social media platforms that you might be concerned they're spending time on have an entire dedicated space, I assure you, to how to get around every single parental control platform. So there's tons of videos out there for kids to use.
I'm kind of hearing and it makes sense just based on what we know about human nature in general and rules. But in a situation where things are so easy and accessible and anonymous and, just all the information in your pocket every day, it sounds like maybe for parenting, it might be helpful to try, instead of like a sort of a dictator or, try to control everything, more that trusted guide, that safe place who it's hard to listen to your kid, especially if they're talking about something that is like scaring the crap out of you or makes you feel like it's dumb or not important. But so what do? You just reflect back to them and
I mean, it's okay to tell your kids, okay, we're done with this and move on. It's okay for that. You can both listen to what they're doing online and also at a later point, maybe not right in that moment, share with them, I actually have no idea what you're talking about. Or, okay, I get it, and move on and do something else. Like, you don't have to I'm not suggesting that you have to sit there and let them bore you to tears because they want to tell you about the guy that they made in Minecraft and how they are going to use that and build this other house and how you can go down and this room is a library. And it's like exhausting.
It is.
Yeah. But at the same time, yeah, you're the adult, you're the parent. Like, this is who you made. Listen to what they're doing with what you bought them and are allowing them to play on. So yeah, take a minute. We are so busy as parents. We are busy telling each other how busy we are.
Yeah.
Like, calm down.
Gosh,
Uncaffeinate and sit down with your child for 10 minutes.
What a
By the way,
snore it is. Yeah. when you like ask someone, you finally get the chance to like connect on a human level and you say, and I've been guilty of this too, but I hate it.
We all, yeah.
But it's like, hey, how are you doing? If someone tells me, if they wait and sort of do that pause and then busy.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where I'm like, that's not an emotion. I'll say that. I'll say, that's not an emotion. We all have, anyone can understand a list of tasks. But in today's day and age, can you please just connect with me human to human for like 5 minutes?
Right. And so what are we telling our kids when we're unable to sit there and have, let them show us something? We do it if they come home after school and they're like, look at this stuff that I made. Or we do it if they want to show us, the presents they got for a birthday party. We do it in lots of other ways. So why would we separate this out? This is their life. This is how they are living. This is the movie. This is their version of Goonies. This is their stuff. So these are the things that are going to make up those core memories, these YouTube shorts, and they're going to be drawn to, oh, remember that YouTuber that we watched and he would do this and this. And we all can kind of keep thinking like they're going to grow out of that. They might, but it's still a core part of their childhood. So we kind of need to get on board and be aware of what they're spending their time doing.
It almost feels to me like how we would have been describing like He-Man or the Smurfs or something to our parents, thinking it was like this high-minded drama, or maybe even our grandparents, and they're thinking you should be reading a book.
Yeah. Well, great call, by the way. But I think this is, so here's the next part of what I was saying. Why are we all having these conversations with kids at such a young age? And because that argument, I would say our parents didn't do that. They weren't interested in whether or not I was watching He-Man, and now She-Ra's in the mix, and like, oh my God, my mind is blown and I'm so excited, right?
Yeah.
But they don't care about Grayskull. Like, they don't care. They just were doing their own
things. By
the
way, please keep dropping these these references.
Someone will get it.
Yeah.
They didn't care. It wasn't part of their parenting style. And by the way, what a lovely place to live where you have no idea what your kid is doing. But the reason I think, and our argument for, as a generation of parents, for being involved shouldn't just be because we're helicopter parents. The position that I'm coming from with Common Sense Media isn't you have to know everything and that's the only way to engage with your kid. You will drive them crazy. That's why I said don't talk and just let them show you something that they're doing. And you've got to pick your moment. If you start engaging and asking questions, that might be okay. But if you start saying like, oh my God, I don't even know why you watch that stuff. Oh my God, it's so annoying. You're out. Like, they're not gonna, so you just broke the opportunity to start building this bridge of the next time or the time after that, you being able to come in and be like, I know you like this guy, but I just read this thing. And have you experienced anything like that? Because I'm not sure you should be watching him. So these are all building blocks. Getting back to the reason we have those conversations is the reason. There is so much more going on online. He-Man was, that was a show that it's scripted. it's animated. It goes through a number of processes to make sure that it gets to the small screen. Doc McStuffins, Teletubbies, all of it. So all that programming, it's going through a process. The dude that's created an incredible influencer community on his YouTube channel, who's sitting in his room. Yeah, that's just him to live. And so there's a couple of places in there. Now that's not everyone. And some of these people are incredible. They're incredible. And they're breakout stars, and they just have such a way of communicating with kids, and they really can stay connected to them. And it's great. I mean, there's a lot of positive stuff coming out. So I don't want to pretend that it's all bad. But the bad is really bad. And the comments are really bad. And
comments are rough.
Yeah, somebody coming in to the video that your 7-year-old is watching, and she's suddenly reading the comments, and she sees, and this is a true story, getting back to your question about what's gone on in my own family. My daughter, she's watching a YouTuber that she loves, and for the first time opens the comments, and she sees all this hate. And her question to me was, why are people writing that? Should I not like them? Like, is there something wrong with them? So all this judgment is coming in from the outside. Now, I happen to have known who she was watching, and I was certainly okay with it. And for once, I knew who it was, but there's plenty of times where I didn't know. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm on top of all this either.
Sure.
But, it was a real eye-opening moment for me, realizing that, like, gosh, look at the impact that this is having. And then this is her way of starting to identify when people are getting bullied. And so it just opened up a whole other conversation. I just want to mention.
I think it's a great thing to point out, because I sometimes get to thinking that I do know what's up, and I didn't even think about the comments. Like, and I think about like YouTube on TV, on Apple TV, for example, the YouTube platform. I'm like, all right, well, that seems pretty safe. It's on a big screen. It's in the living room. We can watch it together. But if the first thing I would do if I was 11 is go read the comments, because those are like unmitigated, how interesting would that be?
I mean, I think when you're watching it on TV, it's less prominent as much. It's much more prominent on the smaller screen for sure, because it's just the way that the device has its player embedded. But yeah, it hit. It really hit. And I think, the same could have been true if it was really positive, and maybe she would have had a different reaction. But I think the point is that there's so much interaction happening, and that's just one person, one channel, one video. So when you're swiping, they're swiping all day, every day. I mentioned the infomercials that I particularly am drawn to, but
sure.
I mean, they're basically just watching commercials all day under the guise of YouTube shorts.
Rough.
Almost every single video is, well,
sponsored,
depending on your algorithm, is either sponsored or selling you something. So, I mean, again, I'm in a very heavily traditional, old school girls world over here. We've got vanities. It's a whole situation. There are haul videos and makeup tutorials, get ready with me videos, and TikToks.
Yeah.
Just my husband is just like, where am I? So it is that's what's going on here with my tween and teen.
You do sound like you're sort of taking the time to be with them in it, and not even just 10 minutes, but maybe fully, hey, show me what you're watching. I think, a lot of times fear gets in the way, or like as a parent, you're like, oh, I'm going to hear something, or maybe even I'm going to show a facial expression that's like, makes them feel bad about what they're doing or watching. And even when I used to do parent nights, even 5-10 years ago, I once had a parent come up, and this is before my son was 11. And so I was like extra judgmental, because I had a 5-year-old, and I was like, whatever. Yeah. But the parent came up to me afterward and said, I don't know what to do. I'm just not interested in the same stuff. I'm not interested in anything he's saying. And it was a parent of a middle schooler. And it was, obviously, there were so many things. I was like, well, what did you think having kids was? Like, what, like in my mind, I have since become a lot less judgmental of that person in that situation, because although I'm still sticking to it more out of stubbornness and just love for my kid, but I will listen to a crap load of stories about Minecraft, because I feel like I'm sort of earning the chance for when something comes up that totally like, and the move I've used before is almost like jujitsu. It's like you act like it's cool, and then you bring it up like a day or two later, and it's like, hey, I was just thinking about this, and I was really, sort of worried and concerned. And that has worked so far, because, but I had to put in, and still do put in, the most time. If he wants to tell me about something, I'll tell him, I'll even say, hey, I don't think this would be very interesting for someone else, but I'm your dad, so I want to listen to this. So just so
Yes.
he knows, so he's not like regaling people at school with
Yeah.
play-by-play.
Don't embarrass me by telling everybody about your Minecraft
I don't
world.
embarrass himself, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not trying to be overly sarcastic, but I have a feeling this will come out sarcastic, which is, it's called building a connection. And I think there seems to be this like, and we're all guilty of this. And by the way, like when you first shared that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad. And also feels like a bigger, deeper problem than just at a parent night.
Oh,
But on
absolutely.
the other hand, we've all been there. I mean, I don't want to listen to half the things either sometimes, because I'm just like, I'm only judging you right now, and you should just enjoy this and like leave me out of it.
Yeah.
Or, I have lots of opinions, and then
Sure.
doing this work, I have even more opinions. It's tricky, it's not easy stuff to listen to. There's nothing worse for me when my kids were a little bit younger than listening to YouTube. Be on like in the kitchen. They would, like, we had a computer, and they would just sit in the kitchen and watch it. And if I heard "Hey guys" one more time, I just wanted to pick that laptop up. Hey guys, blah 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 blah. Subscribe below, and I was just like, oh my god. And my daughter,
gosh, that was
Olivia,
really good.
who's 15, when she was younger, which is really going to sound weird, she's only 15. YouTube was like new when she was little.
That's like Lonely Island days.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah.
So she would, very minimum. Like we were very minimum on all of that. Because I did everything the right way with my older daughter, and then with the younger one, I'm just like, whatever.
Just like your parents.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it's been the opposite with phones, but I'll tell you about that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But anyway, when she was younger, she would say, I would hear her in her room playing, maybe like 4 or 5 years old. And she would be saying, hey guys, it's Olivia. This is my stuffed animal, blah, 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 blah. And she would be kind of mimicking it. And my sister's a teacher and older than me. And I would tell her, and she's like, well, yeah, I mean, this is what they do. They do it with movies. They do it with it. And why wouldn't they do it with YouTube? And I just thought it was like, it didn't make me sad. I got the impression, Marlon, that you were like, oh man. But I actually was like, it just struck me as funny. I wasn't mad or sad about it. I just thought, like, this is so fascinating to see how this progression has taken over with them. My younger daughter is more about trying what she has seen online. She's much more active. I saw this thing online. I want to, the slime, some kind of science experiment. She is like all about it, cooking, whatever it is. So it's interesting to see. My older one, never. Like that was not her style. She just wanted to she liked the fame of it all. But I think my younger one is like, this is what you do. Like I'm learning something here, and I'm going to go do it in my kitchen. So that's why I mentioned, like, there's lots of positive stuff. They have seen plenty of negative stuff. They have seen it all. And when I say all, I mean all of it, like on one platform or another. So I have had my moments of real challenges where my husband is like, shouldn't you have known better? But we all are trying our... We live in shame here.
Yeah.
But, I think it was unexpected, but we've talked about it then. We actually still continue to talk about some of those things. And I mean like porn or some imagery that was just like unexpected, trying out a website that they had heard about at school that they got on at a sleepover and seen somebody live nude. I mean, it's all the things. And
that's like our worst nightmare, I think, as like 80s and 90s kids. It's just like what would we, I can't even put myself in the only thing to compare it to in the neighborhood next to ours, not even in our neighborhood, was like
The
an
other
adult
neighborhood.
video store. Yeah. And that
Yeah,
I was like, what goes on in there? Why does it look so like just it looks like depression in a building. Like it looked like it didn't look like a place I'd want to go. And so the idea that like you're growing up next door to that or almost like with a
It's in your
door to
house.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally it's in a room in your own home.
Gosh, how upset and worried should we be? Are all our kids going to grow up like thinking that sex is something that's like heinous and like consumer to be consumed and like violent and gnarly? Or are they like, what happens?
Well, I think we're seeing some transitions of all of this stuff. So I'm kind of reflecting on my own kids as they've grown up and like the the great age and stage moments, those pivotal moments of when they were exposed, like that was bad. Oop, that was worse. And that's going to come, right? That's going to happen, whether it's online or it's they see something at a friend's house, they see something at your house, whether it's sex, it's violence, it's they hear about something. I mean, that stuff's going to happen. So we all need to be real honest about, maybe not publicly if you're not comfortable, but at least like I am with your own kids about like your values, what to do. Those conversations need to be happening at younger ages. It doesn't mean you have to scare the hell out of your kid at a young age, but there's an element of, appropriateness, sexual appropriateness, people touching, that sort of thing that happens at a young age. Your kid's doctor, pediatrician will talk about that at a fairly young age at wellness checks. Yeah. So we have to kind of have that same mentality and comfort. I think there's a lot of old school, and not so, when I say old school, I mean just like maybe 5 years ago, parents were like, oh, we're not doing that yet. They're not exposed to that yet because they don't have a phone. They don't have an iPad. We don't let them go online after a certain time of night. Come on. I mean, these kids have phones at schools. They make accounts on each other's snaps. They are all on there. They have all seen it. TikToks are posted on YouTube. So the exposure is like big. And I think this idea that you can stave it off is, believe me, we're not letting my younger daughter have a phone until high school now. My older daughter, we gave it to her when she went into middle school. Biggest mistake we ever made.
Okay.
And she agrees, and we still talk about it. So, wow. Big mistake because she didn't need it. And I think we thought she'll need it for us getting in touch with her. And we literally gave her a laptop, a computer to carry around and get online at any point. And many, many times over the years, we have pulled back, started over. And I encourage any parent, it's never too late to reset your family media agreement and your parental controls, and you can always readjust. You're the parent. So don't
it's not going to be perfect. I feel like that's
no.
We get in this cycle where we think, oh, they've already seen it. I can check out now. Or,
or
that's
it's too late. Now they have it. And so I can't take it away. Yeah, you can. Turn that Wi-Fi off. Like there's a lot of things to do. And
also when I talked recently to the superintendent of LA Unified and also their Dr. Malhotra, the chief medical officer for the district. And, as they go through this huge transition to take away phones, Dr. Malhotra's main point was we need to replace it with what used to be there. Free and safe interaction, free time, the ability to speak face to face with each other and share what you're thinking and feeling, like without that wall up, that mitigator of the phone.
What a great way of framing it. I love that. I mean, I love that. I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that. I mean, using free time as the replacement is genius, really. I mean, that's a great way of framing it because that's what we're talking about. These kids can't be, we as a society can't be bored. That getting back to the comment about us being busy all the time. So, I think, what I was going to say is, so my older daughter, they're 3.5 years apart. It's not a ton of space between the two of them,
Right.
but the change, right, that I've seen. So while my younger daughter won't get a phone until high school, we have other things that we are mitigating because she's first of all, a totally different kid than her sister. More active on an iPad, likes to game. We gave her an Apple Watch. So mitigating and managing all of those. I really don't love the word managing when we're talking about parenting.
What would be a better word there?
Dealing with?
Dealing with? Walking with, through?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but we say managing all the time. And I think I'm just sharing with you that I think that that's also probably a little bit of it's like the concept of parental control. It's like,
yeah.
So it's actually an oxymoron. It's just like, that's not how we view parenting. You're nurturing and raising kids. You're building relationships. You're hopefully enjoying.
Nurturing, I feel like, is a great replacement because that allows you to grow on your own and be independent, which is what we really want for our kids, hopefully. Yeah. It also it implies some parental anxiety is going to be there, and you got to kind of just deal with that, because if I start parenting according to how anxious I feel with everything happening, with all the things available for them to see online versus in school shootings and all these other terrifying effing horrible things that are happening, if I put my adult anxiety onto my kid and don't talk to my friends about it or my family, other adults, that starts to look very managey.
Exactly. And you just mentioning news headlines, that's a really important one. And what shifted my own thinking in a lot of our work is, as I have said, child development based, which is very age and stage. You're at this age, this is where you're at developmentally, cognitively, behaviorally. This is what's going on with you. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily match the world around you. Mm-hmm. And so I think we built our parenting guidance for years on like, this is what your kid's going through. Then they're going to be ready for their first movie. Then you're going to get, early readers. That now media and tech have aged down so dramatically that the intersection between what age you are and a first phone or seeing certain things online, it's it's kind of all over the place. There's not really a clear guide and map anymore. And it was a few years ago when my daughter had her phone in school. She was 7th grade, and she got a notification from an influencer, because they all had their phones and they could watch YouTube during lunch, because why would they talk to each other? And it was an influencer talking about a school shooting and sending their prayers. And so that's how she learned about it. So it's not even like a news notification where you can turn off the news app. There's lots of things to turn off and toggle. And
yeah, it's like a full-time job. You have to do it like every other week.
Yeah, but it's worth it, and I would encourage it, but you can't set it and forget it. Like, it is you've got to revisit that stuff on a regular basis, and your kids grow and change and their interests change. So that's another reason you have to look at it. But anyway, it just reminded me of how hard that was. She might've been in 6th grade, but I just really wanted to protect her from that concept. And I, as a mom, never thought we'd be having that conversation with our 6th grader, our 11-year-old. And now I realize that you would have those conversations with your 11-year-old because
you have one.
There've been so many more, or there've been so many more years of that kind of horrible news happening. But parents getting comfortable with talking about these hard topics. Let me back up. If you're going to give your kid a device, if you're going to let them have access in any way, shape, or form to any type of media online, it shouldn't be a surprise that they will see or hear about the worst of the worst, whether that's, this bro culture, this incel network, conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. I mean, my daughter has been asking me, do you really think Michael Jackson died? Do you think he was murdered? I watched this YouTube video. I mean, just the incessant nature of information that's coming at them, the stuff that war, exposure to suicides, live suicides online. I mean, there is so much. These kids are talking about it all at school. It only takes one kid to have seen something to share that information out. So it's a reality check to kind of get a sense of like what your kids have the potential to get exposed to. You can't cover their eyes for every single thing. So how are we going to prepare them for all of this? And at what age and how much information do you start to share and give them?
So you almost want to be proactive before you think, and certainly before you are hoping that they hear about certain things. You want to kind of lay out the groundwork or a framework for that, how that conversation would go. Show them it's okay.
Right. I mean, kids only want to be made to feel safe, and that's your number one job as a parent. Make them feel safe.
I love that.
They're not developmentally there to self-soothe. I mean, we're not talking about like weaning off of a bottle or crying it out. I mean, I'm talking about like anxiety and the mental health epidemic that is wreaking havoc on teens and tweens across this nation.
I mean, when we come to labeling, I feel like we made a generation anxious and then we labeled them anxious, which is like the ultimate gaslighting. But if we're going to talk about the, Gen Z as the anxious generation, then do we need to discuss first changing a model that needs to shock you and appeal to your lowest, the bottom of the brainstem in order to get your attention so they can serve ads? Is there another way?
It's certainly a multi-pronged approach, which I think is what Common Sense Media does. We also don't talk about this generation as being the anxious generation. We really find focusing on, again, this like nurturing, growing, and also learning alongside your kids, because they, in many ways, know a lot more than we do about so much of this technology. But the multi-pronged approach comes from it's education. Yes, it's parenting, but it's also advocacy. I mean, this is a huge element around making sure that companies are held accountable for the content that they are putting in front of our youngest and most vulnerable audience members or their audience members.
Sure.
We're kind of just like trying it out on this generation, and we're seeing some pretty negative effects of that.
What do you mean?
So
what does that look like?
Well, we're, there's a new platform. Oh, kids are adopting it and they're using it. And this new feature is going on in social media. No big deal. And this is what they're watching all the time. And now they're watching it 8 to 10 hours a day. No big deal. And yet now, like, we have a more anxious society, or they don't want to socialize outside of school, or they can't put their phones down, or there's like some addictive behaviors going on. So it's kind of like a real-time experiment with these kids, with our kids. And so I think there's a huge swath of the population that's taking a step back and saying like, no, we need to regulate these industries, make sure that big tech is held accountable, make sure that we are protecting these kids. And it can't all be on the parents. It does not all come back to whether or not you sent the parental controls on your kid's phone. That is a completely unfair fight.
Unfortunately, we made a lot of trade-offs to enter the information age, and to have things be efficient, we've traded a lot of our brain space and even our mental health, especially of our young people. But with that said, I don't want to forget to go over some of these stats. I mean, Common Sense Media does a great job of putting up-to-date stats together, which I used to use in that that exact presentation that I gave that I mentioned earlier. But just some of the newer stats, it's looking like, boys are spending more time on media than girls currently, not by a ton, but it's also looking like 51% of kids under 9 have their own mobile device. That seems a bit scary. And then 29% of kids have used AI for learning, which I think adding for learning makes us feel a little bit more safe about it.
Yeah, that justifies it.
Yeah. And then I think one thing that was sort of upsetting to me was that kids in lower income households spend twice as much time with screens, like almost 4 hours a day, versus kids from higher income homes. That's that like a babysitting thing, or just that they have less options?
Less options. It's a combination of the things. I mean, you think about kids in sports, and maybe not all kids are playing sports, but a lot of kids are, they're gone in these club sports for it's a whole job. So if that's not what's going on in all communities, kids are left to literally their own devices. There's a lot of social interaction and positive stuff that comes out of social media. And we certainly see niche communities. If a child in the LGBTQ community doesn't feel that they can communicate with anyone in their home, but might find a connection online, I mean, you name it. There's a space for everyone, and I feel like that's a positive element that has come out of all this.
People can find each other if they, maybe they don't feel like part of the dominant culture, and they feel alone in that experience, and so they can find each other. That's a good thing you're saying.
Yeah, it is a good thing. We want to balance online life with offline life. So we don't want to only find that community online and never engage face to face and have human to human interactions. And I think this element of AI is going to develop yet another challenge. And we've seen that already with character AI, with these platforms that are really so human-like, so lifelike when you're having a conversation with them, and the information that in some cases they're providing back to kids. It's concerning, really concerning.
It almost seems like, well, so at the Common Sense Media Summit, which is an excellent event that I've attended now for the 2 years that's been happening, and one of the speakers from Denmark did paint a pretty good picture of what it looks like in AI right now. I think she said something like, we have to take into consideration balancing AI, how we're using it, because if we don't, then we're just meat for the machines, and they're going to eat the kids first.
Yes. I mean, very sobering. That's
yuck.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Graphic.
Yeah. Graphic, but geez, I mean, that was
perfect. I mean, I think this is probably, again, we've kind of let social media get way out ahead of us and have regrets, and parents especially don't want to have the same regrets with AI. And so, it's great to hear that kids are starting to use it for learning, and that's cool. I mean, we don't, this falls into the category of you don't want to be behind and you don't want your kids to be behind, but these real-time experiments with technology that is incredibly powerful and incredibly lifelike.
Like, we don't even understand it. I think it's way more powerful than humanity combined.
Yeah, we do AI ratings at Common Sense. And so we do they're really risk assessments to really just determine how harmful is this platform? What are the benefits, but what are the harms?
Yeah.
And what are the risks that go along with it? And the prompts that the team puts in, they go and find prompts online, real examples to feed into an AI platform. The conversations that are being had are disturbing, to say the least. I mean, it's concerning to see the communication that's happening. And again, I think as a parent, you'll agree, it really only takes one story. And there was a recent story about a young man who took his own life after a social exchange with an AI bot. And you just need, I mean, I don't even want one of those, but it really does just take one. One's enough.
Seems like it shouldn't take that, but unfortunately, if history tells us anything, we're just pretty hard to convince in either direction as humans, but at the same time, really easy to convince. I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something about the fact that like it's so easy, your kids can use it that like takes over. But I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of it's so quick, right? All the technology is so fast and it goes to market so fast. When my younger daughter she has dyslexia, but so she was having a hard time. We didn't know at the time. She was probably 4-ish. Our younger daughter was a really early reader. So we were starting to like suss out whether or not that was going to hit. We were going to hit that with the second one too. And we didn't know she was an early reader. What did we know? We were first time parents, but in hindsight, we know now. So our younger daughter, her name is Elsie. She was having some challenges. Anyway, at the same time, what came out was the talk to speak or talk to text feature on the Comcast remote.
Oh, okay.
And then she started using it on her iPad. And then so that's one of those things, again, where it's like a blessing and a curse because she was having a really hard time typing anything in on the screen, navigating the keyboard. There were some challenges there. She might have been a little older than 4 now that I think about it. But it's great technology. It's awesome, right? But then as she got a little bit more sophisticated, she would put on YouTube, put on such and such, a particular YouTuber that we were not interested in her watching anymore. So it just became that ease of access for her once again. And so I'm just using that as an example of like the way this technology comes out, it goes to market, we're all adopting it, we're using it before we even really know how to use it. And that is just that's a whole new way for us.
Each family, it sounds like, would be helped if we just kind of took it on as our responsibility to start our own FCC in our own home, just kind of looking at spending the time to look at any app or website or anything that your child is going to use, especially on a regular basis. You should probably have it too, I would imagine, and devote some time to it.
Have it too, or read about it on Common Sense, get a little bit of a heads up, spend some time watching them play with it, get a sense of what they're doing. Just like we do with movies, where we kind of get a sense of like, does anyone die in this movie? Is there a dog that gets killed? Like, what's the level of sense? Is my kid going to be crying at the end of my bed tonight, coming in at 4 a.m? You want to kind of take the same approach with anything they're going to be doing online, early, often, and even as they age. So we get a sense of what are they doing? How are they interacting? How are they engaging? Who are they engaging with? And this kind of runs the gamut of videos, gaming platforms, watching on Netflix, whatever it might be. There's a lot of avenues for them to create their own profiles and get at content that you may not be aware of.
That's a great point. Let the fear not drive you crazy and make you anxious, but let it motivate you to do some of the kind of boring and hard work of going into their profiles, using some of these apps, at least reading about them on Common Sense. On commonsense.org, I just typed in the search bar AI and like a million things came up that look incredibly helpful. So
yeah.
I think if you can do that. Okay, so Jill, I couldn't be more happy with, I think parents got a lot that's going to be able to help them throughout this episode, but I didn't get, for me, the talk I wanted to have with you about, I don't know, Family Matters, Step by Step, 90210, Mr. Rogers even. I mean, this whole podcast is named after Mr. Rogers. It's like, find the helpers. So
yes,
just give us like a few of your favorite media growing up of all time.
Okay. My favorite media growing up that may or may not have been appropriate for the age I was when I watched it, by far and away, Golden Girls.
I nailed it on accident at the beginning. I don't usually try to get credit like that, but
that was impressive.
I did not know that.
Just on the mark. Oh. This is going to jump around. Okay.
Please.
But favorites of all time. Gosh, My So-Called Life.
Oh, Claire Danes.
In Living Color. like hardcore
David
fan.
Allen Greer, a lot of.
I mean, really, that
yeah.
whole block of like Martin, Living Single, like, oh my God, I love those shows. And then Cheers,
Sam Malone. Keep going. Just give me a few more. Give me a couple more. Just
Full House.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Then Fuller House with my daughters. I loved that whole. That was like
great
a
reboot.
great moment.
Yes.
Facts of Life. Again, anything with 4 women.
Oh
I mean, that was 5 because Mrs. Garrett.
Oh, Mrs. G.
Facts of Life, Golden Girls, Sex in the City. I mean, you could just do a study on just those.
This is excellent. I want to do a full-on bonus episode if and when you have time, which is probably never. I would love to do it.
Anytime. I could talk TV all day, every day. I will make the time.
I love that. We're going to end with Joe, Tootie, Blair, and
Natalie.
Natalie, she's like, almost like the main one, but I always forget her.
Natalie is making a comeback. She was on Palm Royale, which I highly recommend.
Yeah.
And with Kristen Wiig. And I think she's on like some Hallmark movie now. Like, she's making the rounds.
She's okay. Natalie just going strong, rebooting her whole acting career after the Facts of Life. Jill, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. I really loved talking with you. Thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure. I'm grateful to you guys for having me. And I realized that I don't know, I felt like I was very reflecting on my personal stuff, maybe a little bit too much. So if you find that you needed more parenting advice.
No, they could go to the website for that. You are an expert who does know all this, but now you're giving us the gift of that authenticity and vulnerability that they're not going to get anywhere else. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, you guys.
Okay. Talk soon.
Welcome to Marlon Helps, or at least tries, our Q&A segment where we ask Marlon questions, he answers the questions, and he gives it his best effort.
I'm going to try.
Producer Andrea is joining us today.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Producer Andrea is coming to us live from the kitchen of the Comedy Cellar. So if you can see her on her stand-up mic right now, you would appreciate that joke.
It's got a stand now, at least.
Even better, you can do like prop humor with the stand.
A little bit of prop work.
Ooh, zany.
I understand why you have to introduce me separately, but it does make it feel like I'm the front and center of the podcast, as opposed to what I actually am, which is the background person pulled forward for this segment. But I don't know how else to handle it.
I think we can explore kind of our how we understand our identities outside of the segment, and just let you know for now that you are a equal and powerful piece of this segment.
Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel great.
You're the only stand-up comedian that agreed. You brought your mic, so we didn't have to bring that.
Yeah. BYOM, so we're good.
There are a couple ways you can send us your questions. The first being the link in the show notes where you can submit your own video asking your question, or you can send a question to us on our Instagram at This Helps Podcast. We would love to feature your questions, and Marlon is excited to answer them. The question for this episode is about having conversations about tech and social media and media in general with our kids. And how would you go about that?
The conversation, any difficult conversation with your kids, there's a lot on the line. Kids remember everything. No pressure. But if you want it to go well, you have to start way before that. Way before you're worried about something, way before you want to change a behavior that they have that you're nervous about. And you got to make it 100% not about you. It really does have to be about them. And like, I was just in the car with my 11-year-old, and I made it about me because we drove by a bunch of kids his age on electric bikes. And like, we live in Southern California, and there's a lot of like bike gangs of like a bunch of kids on electric bikes that all go around together and do ridiculous things that they shouldn't. And I had to go around them because they were like covering half the lane I was in. And right away I was like, that's so dumb. Like, who's letting their kids do that? Like, all of a sudden, but then I realized that was 1,000% that I was scared to death. He was going to see those kids, realize I'm not letting him have one of those or hang out with kids that are doing that, and then be mad at me. And then I was going to have a problem, or he would, somehow be at risk. And so right afterwards, I kind of like outed myself and was just like, okay, I got to level with you. The reason I said that was so dumb and was so like mean about it was I got really scared that you were going to want one of those, which I would too. I want one now, but I don't think they're a good idea, and people are getting hurt on them a lot, especially like in our neighborhood. So I just got scared and then started like saying mean stuff about those kids. So hopefully, and I was like, does that help you to know? Like, I assume you already know that because he's a smart kid. So I was like, I assume you already know a lot of times when that's happening, but does it help you to know that really, ultimately, I just love you and want you to be safe? And he thought about it for a while and he was like, yeah, thanks. So I don't know. Hopefully that went well, but we're still exploring how to do it. But I have a lot of conversations and do a lot of listening about things that I'm very not interested in, just by the sheer volume of things that he feels comfortable telling me, so that he'll see me as like a trusted guide.
You said something that stuck out to me, and you said I realized, and then you were able to like kind of figure out what's going on. Do you know how, like, what you do that allows you to realize in the moment to realize anything? Does that make sense? Do you know the question I'm trying to ask?
Kind of, but somewhat of, a lot of that question comes from my own experience growing up and of the world, because self-awareness, I realized early on, was key to getting through certain things that I went through as a kid. Because if I wasn't almost hyper aware of how I was coming across, how or if I was meeting needs of the people around me in some cases, if I would not, I had to think like, is this going to result in me being okay and getting my needs met? So I had to be pretty aware of that. And I had quite a bit of transition and some instability growing up. I have a great mom, and she did her best, but she was a single mom, and my dad passed away when I was a kid. So I think I realized early on that to use my brain to think about how I might be coming across. And so it's sort of automatic for me, almost to an anxiety-provoking level.
I was just going to say, I think that's probably true for a lot of people, but if you're raising a kid to be the kind of kid that it feels like you're raising your son to be, or for other people who maybe didn't have that kind of upbringing where that isn't going to be something that comes naturally to them, it feels like such an important step in any of these conversations, though. And so how does one do it then?
To have balance in any, because I think what we're talking about is balance in a relationship. And our relationship with our kids, even, when I used to be in education, there's a huge power differential there. And so you're not often forced to have a lot of self-awareness. And so the best teachers I've ever seen are the ones with self-awareness, and the worst ones I've ever seen are the ones who just like regale their classes about their personal life and sit at their desk and don't teach much. So they kind of make it about them. But I think if we want any kind of balance in our relationships, especially in one that doesn't necessitate that by like, we're not going to get in trouble from our kid, or, they may have an opinion, but it's not necessarily going to affect our day to day. You have to think classic golden rule. Like, how would I want a person to, my kid's 11. I feel like he's 4. in my mind, because I'm like, it's been a long time and I think he's not. But the truth is, and I know this, even if I don't feel it, I know he's probably smarter than I am with a lot of things. He's seen and heard. Talk about self-awareness of what his parents are like. He knows me better than I know me. So I think giving him that credit and just respecting him enough to be like, dude, I think you get it. Like, and I want to be honest with you as much as I can. And if I'm scared about something, maybe you should know that, because ultimately it's not for me to control you. It's so that you're safe. And of course, it's devastating to us as parents to think anything bad would ever happen to our kids. I have to kind of hold that on my own, though, and not let it dominate my relationship with him. Ultimately, if you're not doing it automatically, if you're not thinking about, and having empathy and trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes automatically, you're probably too busy. And some of us have to be. Maybe you're trying to make ends meet, and you don't have a lot of free time in the day. But do your best to put some space between your decisions, especially your parenting decisions, so that you have time to think about what you say and do. And those adult-kid relationships that are so reactive and based on the adult's anxiety, that's not good. Because a kid once explained it like, my parents are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Like, they want to control me, but they're not like available emotionally. And that, I don't think I've ever heard it explained better than that. Like, you're not accessible, but you're checking their grades online or something. Like, that's some classic BS you don't want to get into. Because if you're checking your kids' grades online and they're where they are all the time on Find My, but you won't have a 10-minute conversation where you listen about their day and don't tell them your advice, but just listen, reflective listen, and love them, that's going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to have any kind of real conversation. And that's really the same with anyone, but especially true with your kids.
Yeah. I have this one story that my sister told me about this one time she was talking to like a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid that she was talking to wasn't responding to her. And so she just kind of sarcastically was like, "Do you even understand what I'm saying to you?" And the little kid was like, "Yeah, I do." And I think that, but I think that's so important, because it's like, if a 3-year-old can understand you, like, everyone can understand what you're saying for the most part. And I think that's important to remember too. It's like, you need to talk to people like they're humans and not like little tiny babies that can't do anything for themselves.
Yeah. Or talk to them where you're talking at them and you're to feel okay, you're controlling every bit of the interaction. Like, that sucks. And we don't always realize we're doing it. It's always jarring how well my 3-year-old understands what I'm doing and saying, even when I'm not talking to him. Because he has questions about the conversation he just heard me have with someone else, too.
It is so wild. I mean, the brain is fascinating, but yeah, like just that one piece, it's like, kids are humans too.
Yeah. And you know what? They're often way more present than we are, because they're not worried about how they're going to pay the bills or do anything. You know what they're worried about? This right now, this exact situation. Sometimes something happened at school. Sometimes they're worried about something that's going to happen. But for a lot of the day, they're right here. If they're not on a screen, which is important because it allows them to be present, to be in real life and not on a screen, but you need to be present with them also. It's just, we got to have that space between the when we decide to do things that we want to do that are in line with how we and what we value, versus constantly reacting in a world of fear. Because kids are going to realize pretty quickly that you're not a reliable source when it comes to what is actually true and what's likely. If all I do is talk about my overblown fears of, bike riding around the neighborhood, then if and when he wants to do that, he'll probably try to do it without me, or try to go to his mom, or just do something else to feel in control. I would.
Yeah. And that's feels reasonable. Like, of course he would. Like, why wouldn't he?
No, I got to be cool and myself and somewhat self-reflective. And even with all of this, I'm probably 10% as self-reflective as I think I am. So just know that too. We all can see each other much more clearly than we see ourselves. Thanks for joining us today. We hope it helped. Stay connected with us at thishelpspodcast.com.